All right. Good evening, everyone. So we are starting a series about creation. Now, there is so much we can talk about creation, right? And tonight I'm going to make a short introduction to the subject of creation. But creation, first of all, is I would say one or the biggest proof or the most tangible proof of the existence of God, right? Because how can you justify then that there is something rather than nothing? Okay? And how can you explain the perfection of creation? How can you explain the perfection of the cell, the human body, the brain? And actually, the more we know about what people call nature and we call creation, the more we can appreciate God's existence and God's wisdom. Okay? So creation is such an important thing that we celebrate it every single week. Every single week. Of course, also every single day, through creation, we praise Borei Olam. Do you know when? Yes. No. What is the place in prayer where we praise Hashem for creation? And you will see, yes, Baruch Shamar, you see how little attention we pay toward Tefillah, because this will be like obvious. When we say Baruch Shehamar Vehaya HaOlam, we're talking about blessed is Borei Olam, that by his word the world was created. And if you pay attention to all what is mentioned there, the main subject in all the Hallelujah is creation. How Borei Olam created the world and created humanity, etc. And we say Hallelujah. We praise Borei Olam for all what he created. So the subject of creation is everywhere. Is everywhere. Zecher L'Maaseh Bereshit. Every Shabbat we celebrate it. Every day we mention it. Every day, actually, Pesukei de Zimra, which is this part, inspires us for prayer, for the Amidah, for what is coming. Okay, so from creation, as Rambam explains, from looking at creation with the right attitude, we discover the existence and the wisdom of Borei Olam. And Rambam says that through observing creation, we get to two things: to admire Borei Olam in the sense of reverence for him, Irat Hashem, and also Ahavat Hashem, and also love for Hashem. Right? Now, the Torah doesn't talk a lot about creation in terms of 2017, in terms of 2017 expectations. Understand? The Torah doesn't tell us this is how Hashem created the world, and you get some formula E equal MC to the square of 2, whatever it is. All right? We don't get that. Why not? Because the Torah is not a book of science. The Torah is not a book of science. I have to clarify this from the beginning. Why the Torah is not a book of science? Why not? Because we can get by our own means to scientific knowledge. We can open a leaf and investigate and get to the cells and even beyond the cells. And we can have a telescope and get a glimpse of our solar system and beyond it. Okay? So scientific search is within our reach. Why would the Torah tell us what we can learn by ourselves? Okay? The Torah is a book about right and wrong. The Torah is a book about meaning, about sense. All right? That's why if you're looking for a scientific explanation of how the world was created, you will not get it in the Torah. And yet, in my opinion, after studying this subject for many, many years, and I can give you some background about that. I think that every word that the Torah says is absolutely compatible with most of the things that science explains. Okay? But I need a little time to explain this to you. And there are many barriers and rocks in the road to understanding that. Okay? But I do believe that everything the Torah says is unbelievably, incredibly compatible. We should be like in awe that science is compatible with the Torah. You understand that as humans advance, we have got to a better understanding of what the Torah said such a long time ago, right? And it shouldn't be a surprise because the Torah and the Word are two books written by the same author. So whenever there is a difference between them, it should be because we are reading wrongly one of these two books. Okay? Now, I don't think that we humans, forget about Jews, we humans have gotten so close to the understanding of Bereshit as we are right now, because we now have much more knowledge. Okay? I think the main barrier to understand the compatibility between what people study in college or whatever and what the Torah says has to do with a right understanding of our book, of the Torah. Okay, so this is what I'm going to try to do today, even superficially. All right? So any questions till now? You understood what I just said, that the two narrations should be compatible, should be very similar. Of course, there are some things that science will never be exactly the same as the Torah, because science from the beginning denies the existence of a creator, right? Most scientists. So in that, of course, that you cannot. And also, because from the point of view of the Torah, we have a very important rule that, unlike probably any other act, the act of creation is unfathomable. Is beyond not our knowledge, not only our knowledge, it's also beyond our imagination. Beyond our imagination. Not just beyond our comprehension, beyond our imagination. We cannot imagine it. It's impossible to imagine it. And to tell you the truth, as soon as you start imagining it, then you are wrong. I give you an example. I'll give you one or two examples. Try to imagine God. Okay. As soon as you try to imagine God, what happens? You fail. Because God is beyond our imagination. Try to imagine Olam Haba, the world to come. As soon as you try to imagine the world to come, you have failed. Okay? With creation, something very similar happens. As soon as you try to imagine the act of creation, then you fail. And this is what science does. So we have to acknowledge that from the point of view of the Torah, science has two main problems. Problem number one, that it takes God or the Creator out of the equation. Okay? And second, that they try to imagine creation. All right? So these things are not bridgeable. But beyond these two elements, I believe all the rest is so compatible, provided we understand correctly the words of the Torah. Now, a few words about methodology. How do you do, or what do you have to do to understand the text of the Torah correctly? Anybody? The text, the text of the Torah has many layers, right? Peshat, Remes, Derash, so at least 4 levels, and every letter or every thing could be, 7 70 different meanings, etc. But I'm talking at the most basic levels, the four most basic levels. Peshat means the common sense, all right? Remes means what is hinted. Derash means what I can take out of it. And Sod means like the secret of the Torah. Okay? So Peshat will be the obvious. Remes will be the hidden of the obvious. Derash will be the obvious of the hidden. And Sod will be the hidden of the hidden. All right, clear? Now, at what level, or what level I'm going to talk to you today? I'm going to talk at the first level, which, by the way, I think is the less known level. And actually should be the opposite, because first you need to know the Peshat, and then you can go to mysticism. But for some reason, I remember when I was writing my book, I told someone why I'm writing about the first trips to Kibun Torah. I said, what? You cannot write the first trips to Kibun Torah, because this is something that, for Mekubalim. And of course, I'm not a Mekubal. I said, of course, I'm not writing for Mekubalim. I'm writing for beginners, for just, the Peshat. What is the common sense? Of course, that level number 4 doesn't exclude level number 1. It should include level number 1. We should go first to level number 1, then to 2, then to 3, then to 4. But I believe, and every year when I give these classes, I confront myself with the same situation, that people are not aware of level number 1. Okay, so let's talk about level number 1. We are still in methodology. What do you need? What tools do you need for level number 1 to understand what the text of the Torah is saying? Just plain.
Knowledge of the Hebrew language.
Number 1, you have to have knowledge of the Hebrew language. This is the tool that Borei Olam has chosen to give us the Torah. Now, we cannot have a superficial knowledge of the Hebrew language. It should be a deep knowledge. When I say deep knowledge, I'm not talking about the value of the letters. That's level 3. That's extracting meaning. You understand? Or the acrostics. I'm not talking about that. When I talk about the plain meaning, I'm talking about grammar. Now, without grammar, without semantics, I cannot have a simple understanding of what the Torah is telling me. You agree with that? I mean, this will happen with anything. Now, imagine how careful we should be with Hebrew grammar when it gets to the word of Hashem. Right? Now, if you are reading something written by a person that only went to first grade, how much attention you would put to his or her grammar? Will make a lot of mistakes, right? Now, if he went to college or he graduated in English, PhD in English from Yale University, and he or she makes something that looks like a mistake in grammar, would you immediately say, oh, I made a mistake? You will read it 10 times, because it might be your mistake and not his mistake. Because he said, Yale graduated in English. You see? Now imagine how careful we should be when we are reading the word of Borei Olam. Clear? So every single letter, vowel counts. And there is something else that counts a lot. And not enough attention is paid to that. It's called the te'amim. Or we say ta'amim. Ta'amim are the signs of punctuation. Is it punctuation sign? Punctuation signs. Now in English you have the colon, the semicolon, the point, okay, period. In Hebrew you have more than 20 te'amim. And If you don't know what this te'amim mean, then you cannot know. Let me ask you a question. If you don't know in English what a colon means, you don't know. Can you really read and expect to understand what a sentence is saying? No, you can't. Without colon, period, and semicolon. We don't know. You don't know anything of the. Can you? You will not understand what he's saying. So in Hebrew you have more than 20, and it's very sophisticated. Hebrew grammar is very sophisticated because it's not like just one sign that divides the sentence into two or into three. It's not just like that. It's not just about the sentence. It's about pairing, make it a pair, pairing words. Is sometimes the word in the sentence, a word is in isolation, it's just one word. Like, for example, the word Bereshit is in complete isolation. Okay? How do I know that it's in isolation, Bereshit? Because it has a tam. You are with the text. Excellent. So you see the sign under the word Bereshit is a tarha. Tarha, look at me for a second. There are some signs in Hebrew that introduce the next word, and there are some signs that stop. So usually you have signs that introduce, signs that stop. 1, 2. Or you can have introduce, stop. Okay? Or you can have stop. You can have introduce, stop, introduce, etc. One word, a pair of two words, a group of three words, usually sometimes even four words together, but it is impossible for you to know how one word connects with the other if you don't know the te'amim. Now you understand what I'm saying? Now all these are essential tools. And unfortunately, they are not taught. Which one of you, okay, I know you, but okay, which one of you learned this in school? In high school? The importance of the te'amim. Anybody? The importance of the te'amim. They think that the te'amim are just for reading, for singing the Torah. We use them also as musical notes, but that's a second function of the te'amim. The first one is to define the grammar. You got it? And without that knowledge, you're going to read incorrectly. You don't know what you're going to read. Okay? So, first of all is mastering of Hebrew language.
Torah is the backbone of our religion.
The what?
The backbone of our religion.
Yes, the backbone of our religion is te'amim. Yes, I agree. I mean, the te'amim in the role they play in our book. This is the most important book. You cannot read it as we read the paper. Okay. So what else besides mastering of the Hebrew language is necessary? What else? Torah shebe'al peh. What is Torah shebe'al peh? Torah shebe'al peh means our tradition, how our rabbis have understood this for centuries. So the first thing I told you is grammar. Grammar means, knowing what this letter means, what the other letter means, what this shoresh means. What I'm talking to you right now is semantics. Do you know what semantics means? Semantics is what this word means. Not the signs, but the meaning of the word. The meaning of this root, this shoresh. That's very important. Now, where do I get this from? I know how to read bara, and I know the tam under or above bara. Okay, the second word of the Torah. Very good. But how do I know what bara means? What is bara? What is bara? Create. But there is also yotzer, which also could be translated as create. There is also oseh, which also could be translated as create or created. So what's the difference? So who is going to tell me how should I understand? Should I understand the word Reshit, the word Bara, the word Shamayim, the word Aretz? Is what I think. So Torah Shebe'al Peh. What is the Torah Shebe'al Peh? There is no one book called Torah Shebe'al Peh. Torah Shebe'al Peh means the tradition of our rabbis. Okay, so specifically, the tradition of our rabbis about the meaning of the Torah is found in, let's say, in a few books. One of them is Rashi, for example. Rashi he selects one midrash that he thinks, or one saying of the rabbis that he thinks that adjusts to this pasuk. Now there is another book I want to introduce you to this book, especially for those of you who are advanced, that helped me a lot because, as far as I know, is the only book that is an exhaustive recording of Torah Shebe'al Peh, of oral tradition, pasuk by pasuk. Did you understand what I just said? Which means any word of the Torah that you have, when it comes to any pasuk, okay, whatever the pasuk is, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, okay. Now this book brings you all what the rabbis has said from the Mishnah, Gemara, Midrashim, Zohar, everything, Yalkut Shimon, everything, okay, in one book. There is such a book. There is such a book. It's not one book. It's a series of books. Was written by, believe it or not, in America in 1940, something like that, by a rabbi named Kasher. And this book is called Torah Shelema. Torah Shelema. And it's a collection. We have it in our library. It's a collection of all what has been said about this pasuk by the rabbis. So that's a very necessary book. Why? Because if you have any other book or any other commentary to the Torah, and then you quote this commentary, I could say, well, but wait, the rabbis said also something else, right? That you are not aware of. But with this book, Torah Shelema means the complete Torah, okay? Because it's an exhaustive book that records all what the rabbis had said, especially Chazal, because when we say rabbis, just clarification, when we Jews say rabbis with like capital R, or in Hebrew, Chazal, Chachamenu Zichronam Libracha, we are talking about 5 centuries of rabbis. Are you aware of this? Okay, when we say rabbis, we mean the rabbis of the Mishnah and the Gemara. In the year 0, more or less Hillel and Shammai from that period, until the closing of the Talmud, the year 500 of the Common Era. So those are the rabbis. More specifically, even the rabbis of the Mishnah, which are the rabbis of the Midrash. 200 years of scholarship and learning. Yes.
What gives these rabbis the power to do this, and why do we trust them?
What?
What gives the rabbis the power to write these things? Why do we trust
Because these rabbis, Hazal, they were the receivers or receptors and transmitters of a tradition. Okay? One of these rabbis was Unkelus Ager. Yeah. Unkelus Ager lived in the 2nd century, and he had a great mind for semantics, and he did the translation of the Torah for us. I mean, we're talking about one rabbi of that period, under the supervision of the rabbi of the stature of Rabbi Akiva, which was Rabbi Eliezer Agadol. Under the supervision of these rabbis, Unkelus made the official translation of the Torah, which is called Targum. Targum, which is the translation, also called Targum Unkelus, okay, or Unkelus, whatever you want. So that's the official translation. So now I mentioned to you, how many tools I mentioned to you? Tool number 1, Hebrew grammar. Tool number 2, tradition, semantics. Tool number 3, we have a translation. Translation. The Septuagint is not a translation. This is a translation. Okay. Tool number 4, something that I learned from my own experience. I think probably the best commentary of the Torah. Another book called Concordancia la Tanakh. Concordancia la Tanakh means that this book tells you everywhere that this word appears. So many times, Chachamim said, Divrei Torah aniyim b'makom echad v'ashirim b'makom acher, which means the words of the Torah are, in some cases, are poor, some cases are rich, which means in some cases you have no context, and in other cases you have the context. So when this word A, the word A, appears here in this context, there is nothing you can tell about. But all of a sudden you find this word in a different context. And here you can learn by the context what the meaning is. Then you can apply it to the first one, to the first A. You understand? So this is such an incredible thing, because you have words, not in the first pasuk. The first pasuk doesn't have any difficult word. But the second pasuk has at least 4 or 5 very difficult words. Very difficult words that are very rare. Like, Ve'aretz hayeta tohu vavohu. So what does it mean, tohu? What is tohu? The only way for you to understand tohu is what? Let's go. First of all, you have to know what the shoresh is, right? What the root is. Okay. Then you have to see what our rabbis said. Rabbis meant what? Where do you get this? Torah Shlema, for example. Then you have to go and see what Targum Unkelus said. In this case, Targum Unkelus is not very useful because he will translate it like mechanically to Aramaic, which will be like some words, Spanish and English. If I say to you, solution, say it in Spanish, solución, oh, the same thing. So I didn't get anything from the translation. So tehom is going to say tehoma. I don't get anything that will help me for this word. But then I have Concordancia la Tanakh. I will see wherever the word tohu is found, and many times the psukim are written in a way that you can see a contrast. For example, lo tohu bera'ah lashevet yetzarah, means talking about the earth, the planet Earth. Borei Olam didn't create this for tohu, he created it to be habitated. So I have is minus tohu plus habitated, which means, I don't know a lot of math, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. But when I do the opposite, so it will be, if here means no habitated, okay, it means what? Uninhabited. So that's it. So because of the context, I could learn now what this word means. I gave you a very simple example. Yes.
What was this pasuk? Was that an actual pasuk?
Yes.
Where is it?
לא טוב אלא לשבת שרה. ישעיהו, ובתוהו ילל ישימון. So there are so many, words that are clarified by the context. By the way, if you do that, you are not doing anything new. I mean, Chazal did that, and rabbis in the Middle Ages did that, but especially among Sephardim, there was a very, very, very important tradition of keeping with the language, having a lot of respect to the language of the Torah. So these are the 4 tools that I have used in my book to delve into the meaning, the plain meaning. We are not talking about level 2, level 3, and level 4, level 1. But again, for some reason, very few people get to level 1. And I believe that because so few people get to level 1, there is so much confusion. Okay, all right. So let's go. I want to begin with the text. So first of all, we have this word, which is probably one of the most difficult words of the entire Torah. Is this very technical? What I'm telling you, very difficult. You are following?
100%.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Bereshit. I know in the beginning, it's not a simple word. It's not a simple word. How many components or elements this word has? How many? Yeah, 3 components. Yes. And number 2 and number 3 are contradictory components. So the Torah is starting in a way that is really, very difficult to understand from the point of view of grammar and semantics. Because element number 2 and number 3, they contradict each other. Okay. The word be, or the letter be, means at, in. All right. However you want to translate it is fine. But let's follow the traditional in. All right. What is the word reshit? Where does it come from? Reshit. Right. We have other. Let's see. Let's see what I told you before. Okay. Let's go, for example, to number 4. Okay, which is are there any other places in the Torah where the word reshit exists? Reshit Chochma Irat Hashem, the beginning of Chochma is Irat Hashem. Okay, and we have also Mereshit Hashana. Okay, so that what? Reshit Oni, yes. There are many places where the word Reshit appears, and always there, Reshit means beginning. Beginning. Okay, so Bereshit, it could translate it as in the beginning. There is just one problem, one small problem. That beginning, actually you say Rishonah. Rishonah diber Hashem be'Yoshea. Rishonah, and it appears many times in the Tanakh too. Rishonah. That's beginning. Okay? The word Reshit in Hebrew means the beginning of. Reshit Chochma Irat Hashem, the beginning of wisdom is fear of God. Bereshit Mamlechet Yehoyakim, in the beginning of the kingdom of Yehoyakim, Reshit Tebuato, the beginning of the harvest, or whatever it is. Okay? So the word Reshit means the beginning of. Clear? Now, when you have the beginning of, what do you expect to get next?
Of what?
A noun or something. You need another word there. Okay? Clear? Let's take this pasuk. Reshit Chochma Irat Hashem. So it should have said Bereshit Aberiah, in the beginning of creation, or Bereshit Olam, Bereshit Azman, in the beginning of time. Something, give me something. But it's not only that doesn't have any word that comes after that, but as I explained to you, the tam, the punctuation under the word Reshit is a tarcha. Boom. The good Baal Koreh should read Bereshit bara Elokim, like pause. Bereshit bara Elokim, separated in isolation. Now these two things, they couldn't go together.
What does that mean?
But that's it. So that's my question to you. So I don't want to get into technicalities like how does it call? It's called nismach. Nismach, you have nismach somech, which is like a construction that needs 2 words, a pair of words, but instead of having a pair of words, you have just one word. And to make the case stronger, one word with a comma, with a strong comma, almost semicolon. You say semicolon?
Yes.
Or almost a semicolon. It's one of the strongest pauses. The third strongest pause, tarha. How you understand that? You see? So just from the very beginning, you have a problem. Okay? Now, on top of all this, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this because I think I mentioned, on top of all this, modern translations are completely ignoring this tarha. The worst of all of them is the JPS translation that deliberately introduces a word that is a very biased word when God began to create, completely ignoring semantics and grammar tradition with an agenda. With an agenda. Again, I'm not going to speak a lot about this, but their agenda in JPS translation, the new translation, is to show Chas v'Shalom that the Torah is something written like a myth. To make a long story short, they show, which is not even true, that all the myths of the Near East, all the myths of creation, they begin with the word when. Like all the stories of the Grimm brothers begin with the once upon a time, or something like that. Right? Once upon a time means this is a myth. It's not true, because the difference between myth and history is time frame, a time and a place. Once upon a time, where did Red Hood? No.
Leather.
Red Riding Hood? Red Riding Hood.
Red Riding Hood, yes. Where did this happen?
In the forest.
In which country? When? Okay. So, whatever doesn't have the coordinates of place and time is a myth. And you introduce it by once upon a time. In the same way, in ancient times, they claim this is not even true because this is their own translation. The word when means, this is a myth. No time, no place. That's why, after I think I'm the first one that discovered this scam. Okay, this is a scam. They want to show that they introduced that word there. That doesn't have anything to do with it. But ignoring not only the meaning, also the time. Because the time says, in the beginning, boom. Okay? The Torah says, in the beginning, literally, in the beginning, sorry, let me go. In the beginning of, comma, created God, we retranslate as God created, that's more correct in English. God created, but it says created God, but Elohim. Et hashamayim et haaretz. No problems with et hashamayim et haaretz. No problem with the word Elohim, God. No problems with bara, created. The problem is with in the beginning. Okay? So these people, they translated that, or there are other translations that are really bad translations, because what is the main meaning of this pasuk? Again, let me read it for you again. In the beginning, or in the beginning of, God created heavens and earth. What is the message of this pasuk? If you would be a scientist, you would say, well, the object, shamayim va'aretz, right? What God created. Or you would say, well, for me the most important thing is when. 15 billion years ago or 5778? When, right? Or you could say, how God created. Bara, what does it mean, bara? But surprise or not surprisingly, for us, in Jewish tradition, the most important word here is not Bereshit, is not bara, is not Shamayim, is not Ares, is Hashem. The word is not here by happenstance. What's the difference, the main difference between science and Torah regarding creation. What is the difference? The difference is the who. For science, who created the world? Accident, whatever. For us, forget about how long, how, what, by which means. The most important thing is that. So that's the message for us. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. All right? Now let's go back to the word Bereshit. Okay? How to solve this word Bereshit? I don't know. I mean, I know. I can tell you one idea there, but I cannot say this idea is the truth. I think this is the beauty of the Torah, that nobody can say, oh, I have the something revealed to me, and I know. I know the discussions. Ramban would say, well, there is a word missing, but it's not missing, it's implicit. It's Bereshit HaZeman, in the beginning of time. All right? And I think many other rabbis would say that, or Rashi would say, in one of his theories, would say, Bereshit HaKol, in the beginning of everything. Okay? Now, my idea, but again, this is just one idea, and I didn't get it from anywhere, but I thought that perhaps the combination between the nismach in the beginning of, combined with the comma that closes the word, might be a word that reflects on itself, which then would mean in the beginning of
The beginning.
the beginnings. This is my idea. This is my 2 cents. I don't know if it's true or not. I cannot say. All right? But somehow you understand that we're talking about in the beginning of everything, in the beginning of time, or in the beginning of all beginnings. You see how powerful the first word of the Torah is. Yes.
Right, there are a lot of rules in Hebrew grammar that aren't consistent at all. They say it's a rule because 85% of the time the rule holds true. But then there are plenty of times where it doesn't throughout the Tanakh. So why are we so fixated on explaining it? What if there is such a thing in Tanakh as a nismach that doesn't have a someh?
Well, look for one and bring it to me. There is no other example of the word Bereshit as it is written there in any other place in the Tanakh. Otherwise, it will be very simple. And of course,
No, but we have other words. We have Techilat Diber Adonai Be'Oshea. Techilat is a nismach.
yeah, I know, but not this Bereshit. So, again, how to understand this is not easy. But who said that the word of Hashem is going to be something easy? But still, you have to adjust yourself to the rules of grammar. So for me, another thing, I have to tell you another thing. Something very important. Translation to another language is impossible. You understand that, right? It's impossible. You will never get a word, unless they are sister languages. You will never get a word that will cover the exact semantic field as the other word. Okay? So here we use the Targum, but the Targum doesn't give us here a great help, because it translates something with a word that is very similar, bekanmin, okay? Which means the same thing in the beginning. But the Targum helps us to disconnect the first word with the second word, which is what other texts do. Listen, I spent 6 years in this book, Tara. Believe me, I know what this book says. So I don't want to waste time. So listen, if everything would have been written, I wouldn't have written this. Okay, so Bereshit, in the beginning. We cannot say in the beginning of. We could say in the beginning. And in my opinion, we have to put a comma here, respecting what? The time that is there. And disconnecting this word with the next. Okay, let's go to the second word. So another thing that we learn is that the word had a beginning, which I spent one chapter of my book. The first chapter of my book is about this. is about the search for a beginning. Very briefly, from time immemorial, not from Aristotle, from all the myths of the Middle East, from the Sumerians, the Akkadians, and Babylonians, and the Assyrians, all their myths of creation, they never had creation from nothing. They never had a beginning. The first scientist that addressed creation was Aristotle, who denied it. He said there was no point zero of creation. The world as we see it right now has always been like this. The world means their universe, okay? The world and the stars. Why did he say that? Because there is nothing pointed at the beginning. Everything goes in orbits. The fact that you can predict when the sun is going to rise tomorrow and when the moon is going to be full, etc., everything goes in orbits. I don't know if they knew that the Earth was round. It doesn't matter right now. But they saw orbits. You following me? And orbits, they don't point to a beginning. Orbits, they point to eternity, to continuum.
It's perpetual.
Is what?
Perpetual.
Perpetual. So that's why he said there was no beginning. There are other things that he said, but this is the most logical thing. And for centuries, we were on the defensive side. We Jews, believing in the Torah, we were on the defensive side because science was proving that the world did not have a beginning. And we were stubborn and we were primitive. Saying that we were against Aristotle was like saying today that we are against Darwin or something like that. We are so primitive that we deny what science has proven from the time of Aristotle. Look how primitive we are. We still believe in a beginning. You understand how much personality and character we had to have, right? And it took a while, like 2,500 years, until science discovered the beginning. It was science that discovered the beginning. It was a scientist. When they saw beyond our solar system, beyond the moon and the sun, they saw beyond the planets. They saw something called galaxy or galaxies that at the beginning with the first telescopes, they looked like clouds. Seriously. It's called nubilas or nubias, like nebulas, like they look like clouds because you see a lot of points. Today, 2017, we know that each one of these points is a galaxy, and sometimes beyond that small point, there are, I don't want to scare you, but millions of galaxies in that point. You following me? But for the ancient man, before 1900, these clouds, they look like dust. There is dust in the sky. You don't know what this dust is because they didn't have powerful telescopes. Only in 1930, in California, when they, after a big debate, because they didn't even know that we are in a Via Láctea, in a Milky Way, in a galaxy. They didn't know. They thought that everything is contained in the Milky Way. And then they discovered Andromeda. That was called the Great Debate around 1920. The Great Debate. In a matter of a debate, the universe became like from being one galaxy, the Milky Way, to have, 700,000 galaxies at that moment. Then Edwin Hubble made an incredible discovery. What did he discover? He discovered he saw that the universe is expanding. Do you understand the difference between orbiting and expanding? Do you see the difference? Expanding is not going in circles. It's not going like that, it's going like this. And if it's expanding, it means that if we take the movie backwards, boom, 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 we will get to a point zero. Let's call it point zero. Point zero of creation. Bottom line, to make a very long story short, this is how they got to understand after 25 centuries that Aristotle was wrong. And they got to understand that the Torah was right. That the very first word of the Torah, was confirmed. Not that we need that. We have been facing all other ideas for 25 centuries. Rambam was like champion defending this. We believe the fourth of the 13 principles of our emunah is creation yesh me'ayin, creation out of nothing. For Aristotle, the universe always existed. For Plato, there was some primeval matter. For us, Boreolam created out of nothing, Bereshit. It's implied there. Okay? So it took 25 centuries. Yes.
What year was Hubble's discovery?
1930.
Oh, no.
1930. Many scientists who were anti-religious opposed the idea of, they said, Hubble is wrong. The universe is not expanding. Among them, Albert Einstein, who made the biggest mistake in his career by discrediting this fact. He said, no, it cannot be. We cannot, he said, we cannot throw ourselves in the hands of priests. For him, it was a matter of ideology, not of science, which you will find a lot in science. The first is ideology. Then you try to adjust what science says to that. Right? But you can read the rest in my book. But in a sense, that discovery was like confirming what the Torah says. Okay, that's why many times people ask questions. I still have questions, unresolved questions, but I have patience. I mean, it took science 25 centuries to realize that they were wrong. So you see what I meant by the two books? Let's take the first word, okay? The first word, we got it right, Bereshit, in the beginning, period. The beginning of all beginnings, the beginning of time, beginning of everything, okay, period. Science was against it. So how can you tolerate that there is a difference between two books written by the same author? Because we were literally reading heavens wrongly. We were reading heavens with the wrong telescopes. Once we got the right telescope, we were able to read heavens as they are, in expansion. We were able to see that there was a point zero of creation. You see? So it took us 25 centuries to read correctly one of the two books. But it's always this struggle. It's reading, rereading creation, reading Torah. But if you get the right reading of both, then you can really find compatibility, as we did. I know the questions that you have, of course, because you say, okay, but this is similar, but what about all what the Big Bang says about the time, etc., etc.? Well, I address that in my book. I think I'm going to stop here, and I can take some questions,
Rabbi,
and we will continue. Yes.
What about the scientists say this is from 1 billion years ago and 1 trillion years? This rock is from.
Well, that's so easy. That's so easy to explain. That's the easiest part to explain, is how science says that this is 1 million years old. Because imagine a mountain. They say this mountain must be 1,000,000 years old. All right. Now, why they say it's 1,000,000 years old? Because there is plate tectonics. They move the mountain. Let's say it's growing. Let's take a tree. Let's take a tree. It's easier with a tree. Okay. So this tree, it's 200 years old. Why? Because each year it grows 1 centimeter, and now it's 200 centimeters. Must be 200 years old. Correct? Correct? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Oh, very. Now, as a scientist, if I said this tree is 200 years old because it grows, I saw it, I measured it, it grows 1 centimeter a year. I'm right. Right?
Yes.
I'm doing my due diligence. And I'm using the tools I have, which is deduction, induction, whatever it is. Measuring, present, deducting for the past or inducting to the past. Okay. Very good. Projecting. Now, when Borei Olam, the key is in Hazal. Hazal taught us, our rabbis taught us, how to read creation, how to read the act of creation. We don't know how Borei Olam created the world, how he brought to the existence. This is something that is unfathomable. But we do know, because of Hazal, we do know that when Hashem created the world, He created it already with an age, which is, He created already the tree evolved. So the tree, when it was born, it looked like it had 100 centimeters. So, I'm Borei Olam, I'm creating this tree. Boom. Okay. Now this tree has 100 centimeters. Okay. You come and you study it and you see that it grows 1 centimeter a year. What would you say about this tree? You would say, oh, it has 100 years. Are you right or wrong? Right or wrong? You are right and you are wrong. You are wrong because this tree is 5 minutes old. But you are right because it was created with an age of 100 years. It would have taken this tree 100 years to reach its height if it would have been coming from known creation. You got it? So the act of creation, Chachamim explained it. The act of creation created this situation in which every single element has simultaneously 2 ages. The age, the chronological age, the Everest, I'm Borei Olam, I created it 5 minutes ago, and 60 million years, the internal age. How much time would have taken to this mountain to be born from the ground up? Some geologists say 60 million years because it moves so many centimeters a year. I'm not wrong. I am wrong, but I'm not wrong. Sorry, I am wrong, but my calculation is not wrong. And this dichotomy is necessary, and it's a consequence of the act of creation, as per Hazal, creation with an age, what I call mature creation. Boran created things in their maturity. What did Hashem create? The egg or the chicken? No questions. The chicken. The mature form of the chicken is the chicken, it's not the egg. Same thing with everything. So this question is the easiest to solve.
Hi, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Easier example to understand is
Even
Adam.
very easy.
Adam.
Yes, even easy.
Adam was with
Okay. I see you next time. All to.